When I inherited my grandfather's old cabin by the lake, I thought I had hit the jackpot. It wasn't some ultra-modern getaway or luxury mansion. It was a sturdy, two-bedroom cabin with a stone fireplace, pine walls, and a wraparound porch that looked out over the most peaceful body of water you could imagine. The lake had been our family's fishing spot for generations, and to me, it was priceless. I visited every weekend, sometimes bringing friends, sometimes just going alone. To escape the noise of the city, I'd sip coffee on the porch in the morning, paddle my kayak in the afternoons, and grill fresh fish in the evenings. Life was perfect until the HOA showed up. I wasn't part of the homeowners association.
Oh.
My cabin was technically outside. Their community boundaries, though we shared the same stretch of lakeshore. I had heard of them before, a notoriously strict group led by a woman named Linda, who believed she was running a private country club instead of a small-town HOA. But since our paths rarely crossed, I figured I had nothing to worry about. Was wrong. The fence appears one Friday evening. I arrived at the cabin after work, excited for a weekend of fishing. But as I drove toward the lake, I was stopped dead in my tracks. A brand-new, heavy-duty metal fence stretched across the only road that led down to the water. There was a shiny padlock on the gate and a freshly painted sign that read in bold red letters, HOA members-only trespassers will be prosecuted. At first I thought I had taken a wrong turn. But no, this was the only road. The same one I'd been using since childhood. I parked my truck, walked up to the gate, and tried the lock solid as a rock. My blood started boiling. I called the number listed on the HOA's notice, and after a few rings, Linda herself answered. Linda speaking. HOA president, she said, her voice dripping with fake politeness. This is Mark, I said, trying to keep my cool. I own the cabin at the north end of the lake. Why is there a fence blocking the road? Oh, that, she said casually. We decided to limit lake access to HOA members only. Too many outsiders were using it. I'm not an outsider, I said sharply. I've had access to that lake my whole life, oh, she said with a little laugh. You're not an HOA member, so you no longer have access. Rules are rules. That was when I knew this was personal. Linda had always wanted control over the entire lake. I was one of the last holdouts she couldn't touch until now. The search for a loophole that night. Instead of fishing, I sat at my cabin table with my laptop digging through county property records. I wanted to know exactly who owned the strip of land where they'd put up that fence. After an hour, I found it. A small parcel, only a few hundred square feet, sitting right at the start of the road to the lake. And guess what? It wasn't owned by the HOA. It wasn't even owned by anyone in the HOA. The land belonged to an elderly man named Henry Thompson, lived 2 towns over. This was my opening. The next morning, I drove to Henry's house. Was a tall, thin man in his late 70s with a friendly smile and a firm handshake. Over coffee, I explained the situation, how the HOA had fenced off the road on his property without permission. Henry frowned. I didn't give them permission for that, he said. That road's been public for decades. I haven't been up there in years, but I always thought it was open to everyone. When I asked if he'd be willing to sell the land, Henry laughed. Son, if it'll keep those HOA people from bothering you and me, I'll sell it to you for a fair price. 2 weeks later, the deed was in my name. Taking back the road the following Saturday, I drove up to the fence with a copy of my newly signed deed in my glove box. HOA members stood around in lawn chairs by the gate, apparently enjoying their exclusive lake access. Linda was there too, sipping lemonade like a queen, surveying her kingdom. I stepped out of my truck, holding a set of bolt cutters. Excuse me, sir, Linda barked. This is private property, HOA, members only. I smiled. You're absolutely right, Linda. This is private property, mine. Her face froze. What are you talking about? I handed her a printed copy of the deed. This strip of land, including the road and the gate now, belongs to me. And as the owner, I'm removing the fence. Before she could respond, I clipped. The lock and swung the gate open. HOA crowd gasped. You can't do that, Linda shouted. I can actually, I said calmly. And if you trespass on my land again, I'll have you prosecuted." The power shift the HOA tried to fight back. They sent me angry letters, threatened to sue, and even called the sheriff. But when the sheriff saw my paperwork, he told them plainly, "He owns it. You don't. End of story." Over the next few weeks, HOA members started calling me, asking, and eventually begging for access to the lake. I decided to grant it. For a price. I charged a small annual fee for a key to the gate, enough to cover maintenance and, frankly, to make a point. Linda refused to pay at first, insisting she had rights. But after missing 3 weekends at the lake, she finally showed up with a check. I handed her a key with the biggest smile I could manage. Justice served. Owning that little strip of land gave me more than just revenge. It gave me peace of mind. No more surprise fences, no more rules from a group I didn't belong to. And every time I unlock that gate, I'm reminded that standing up for yourself is worth it. Now, every Saturday morning, I drive past that same spot where the fence once stood. The sun glints off the water, the fish are biting, and the only sound is the gentle splash of my kayak paddle. Linda still gives me dirty looks when she sees me, but she doesn't say a word. She knows exactly who holds the key, literally, to her weekend plans. The lake is mine to enjoy, just as it's always been. And now, thanks to a little digging and a well-timed property purchase, the HOA will never try to take it from me again.